Hey, welcome back to Made Up of Wires, where we're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. You can go to sutton.z.dev to learn more. You'll see the graphs that we fixed on the last stream. They were merged in, and now we have nice graphs. And we can go down to NZ1, which is what we've been working on, the clock tower. And we can see a bunch of the stuff that we've been doing on the stream has been checked in too. I have to be a little careful today. I think we'll keep working on NZ1. I have some other changes in flight that I need to be cautious about. But it looks like we may or may not have a new contributor who's working on dedupes in this space. So let's make sure that we don't step on toes. That wouldn't be good. It does look like we have another overlay that we could work on. Let me go through and see what we have here. So there was, I thought I saw another overlay imported, but it looks like not. So let's go through. We talked about on Mondays. I know it's Tuesday, but Monday was a holiday in the US. Going over some of the recent changes that have happened and see what's going on. We can look at pull requests, but I'm gonna focus on the things that have made it in since last week. And so we're looking at the 13th or 14th. Like I said, I have some other in-flight stuff, and I'll go over that a bit. That's the stuff we were working on Thursday, plus a little more. I think I need to split those things up though, because it got I thought it was going to be simple and straightforward, but it ended up being a little too complicated. So we have a bunch of work going into the PSP main. So the main, what we call main, it's called ps.elf on the game, is the entry point for Symphony of the Night. So if you have the Castlevania X Chronicles on the PSP, where's my copy? There it is here. So if you have Castlevania X Chronicles on the PSP, you actually don't get to start with like a game selection of Symphony of the Night. What you get is a remake of Rondo of Blood. And you have to go through and find a specific unlockable area. And once you do that, then you'll have access to Symphony of the Night, and it'll be part of the game selection when you boot up that game. When it boots up that game, it switches control to ps.elf, which is like an elf executable like you'd see anywhere, MIPS specifically for the PSP. And that acts a lot like main or SLU 0067, which is the identifier for the entry point for the PlayStation version of the game. So in that main, you'll have all the common PSP setup stuff, but you also have a couple interesting things. There is an implementation of the PlayStation SDK that people are working on decompiling. It's really just a shim between the PlayStation SDK and the PSP SDK, and in some cases, a bunch of those functions are just empty, do-nothing functions. It's kind of interesting, as well as a bunch of other things. So a lot of work has been going on there. Sometime in December is when that was imported, work is happening. The RCAT overlay, so reverse catacombs, that was imported recently. The work, like I said, the work that we were doing in NZ1, that has all been merged in. And it looks like, let's look at this one. It looks like maybe an additional function signature. I'll have to look into that more and why this might be interesting. Okay, so let's get back into it. I think I'm going to stick with Clock Tower for now. Sometime later this week, maybe we'll import a new overlay or boss. Let me get to, here's the stage wiki. Any of the bosses that are in the upright castle are probably fair game, because we either have most of those overlays complete already for the stage. So there's going to be some portion of the code that's going to be shared between the stage and the boss. So it might be worth looking at that and seeing possibly what, which of those maybe is on the simpler side. I would think we might be able to choose something there and look at another boss. Yep. Just getting a time check. All right. So, like I said, we'll keep working on the clock tower for now. And so what I want to try to stay away from is the duplicates, because, like I said, it looks like we probably have a new contributor that's looking in that space, and I want to... duplicates is a great way to get involved with not only this project, but any decompilation project, especially for the PlayStation. So water effects, that's largely duplicates. I really thought that we had more of the Harpy stuff done, but it looks like not. Flail guard may be unique. Let's look at that. This is rebased. Did we not? I'm probably misremembering. There must be something with Entity Bridge background piece that's not quite working. I thought we had that as well. Entity room exit is interesting. It's a little different than we normally do. Red door. The entity red door is unique. Again, for some reason, not quite sure. But like I said, let's stay away from duplicates. I'm going to look for entity room exit, and then if that is straightforward, then we can move on to the flail guard. I would think that this would have something to do with Karasuman, and originally, I think, if I remember correctly, those functions were around the Karasuman overlay. It might have been part of that same overlay. I can't recall specifically. Where is my... I don't have a decomp.me. I closed them all. Oh yeah, I think I sold them all. So we'll get this. Maybe I should pin it to the side. That might be something. Sorry, moving it back to the front so I can get it easy. Let's start decompiling PlayStation. We'll use the Symphony of the Night preset. And here we go. Only 111 instructions, 110-ish. So hopefully not too bad. Eonet interactable is something I should probably just put in the context. That's the only symbol that we'll need from this. All these other ones will go away. M2C couldn't figure out the signature, so we'll give it a little hint. Hey, roaming. Sorry, I forgot if I said hey yet. Good to have you. All right. So that does compile, and it's pretty close already. So this one looks pretty straightforward. So hitbox detection. We're going to change this to a break, and this becomes a break as well. Interesting that the step is going to 16, but there is no case 16 here. Sometimes code outside of the entity update function has an understanding of what that step means for a particular entity. In this case, I'm not sure. We'll fix these references. So we had a match, and now we don't have a match, but this is more accurate. Hey, does it? Good to have you back. Dig down deep. Nice to have you. So we do have a match on the PlayStation. We'll check it on the PSP next. Let's see. Is there anything that I think is going to trip us up? My guess is that the ordering here is mostly wrong. But we will see. Where did that player go? That I'm 24. Oh, now we're really off. Let me undo a few of those things, a few moves around. So we're not as close as I thought after we put this in there. Yeah, so this is going to be ordering. Let's try to get as close to this ordering as we can. That's making things worse. On the PlayStation, it's hard to reason about the ordering. So I'm going to pull up the PSP version, and we should be able to figure it out from there. It's unfair. Back in the old days, back in my day, we would just force our way through. You have to brute force all the combinations to figure out what the right one was. No more. I pity the games that don't have an alternate unoptimized version to decompile with. Stuttering video. Interesting. Oh. Yeah, my drop frames is super high. Let me see if there's anything I can do about that. Apologies. Yeah, I'm dropping 80% of my frames. Appreciate the heads up. What's that? Let me reset stats and see if it's any better. No, it's worse. I'm dropping 123% of the frames. So what is causing this? And no memory pressure. CPU's not even overly loaded. Yeah, it's definitely on my side. There's some kernel task taking 50% of the time, and some background metadata stuff going on that I can't control. Apologies. I don't have time to restart the stream, so I'm gonna forge ahead with my broken browser window. See if we can get that working again. Or just cry and give up. That's an option too. Yeah, something is definitely going wrong. Let's see what I can shut down here. I've put off, so there's, for non-Mac users, there's a reasonably controversial update to Mac OS that came out in the fall, and I've avoided it basically at all costs. I'm trying to quit everything I can. It looks like networking though. Sometimes, actually, the what's neat about Mac OS is the network drivers are, there we go. That might be better. It says reconnecting. We'll see if it reconnects. All right. Are we 5 by 5? Oh, nope, still dropping. Still dropping. I thought it might be Wi-Fi. Ethernet I have set up as a higher precedence, but it's not working. Not sure. Okay. I'm going to power through and fight the issue the other day. Unfortunately, I only have about 15 minutes before I have to attend to other matters. All right, so what do we have? So the first thing I see is this left, probably is a plus equals 1 or a plus plus. That's even better. We're missing a variable somewhere, but we can get the ordering down here correct. So we have tile map, player, our plus plus, and then, so yeah, very, very wrong. We'll say no. All right, so we have that ordering correct now. It appears that G entities may be getting pulled out as a player variable and then only used in one place. Well, this is a not. And that looks like that was it. Thank you, PSP, as always. And we're matching here as well. So, again, sorry about the terrible frame rate. This should fortunately go quickly. And it doesn't match. Oh, do we not have? Let's check the errors. Check the tape. Yeah, we don't have G init interactable. Let's provide it. Get rid of this irregular comment. You're irregular. Symphony of the Night. See, I don't know. Who should I call irregular? And that works fine. So now we have to go through, and fortunately it's just one function that makes it pretty easy. We'll go to stnz1, find the E room exit, And we don't know of any data that's associated with this. That should be all there is, and then we can get rid of the other file. Unfortunately, I can't do it in this branch because I'm in a branch with other stuff. Actually, I did commit that. So let's do it. It's always nice to get rid of stuff. And I could just cherry pick that commit onto another one later on. Alright, so that matches both PSP and PlayStation. Do I have time to get into Flail Guard? Sure, why not? So 2 functions there. Let's look at that as well and see if there's any duplicates there. Does not look like it. I don't think Flail Guard should be too complicated. There's really only the one attack, and then whether he's headed towards you or away from you. So I think that should be pretty straightforward compared to a lot of enemies. Oh, complicated enough to have its own reasonably sized state machine. Go back to the PlayStation. And I am going to grab the EONet interactable declaration. Put that in the context. So when you modify the context when you're creating a new scratch in decomp.me, it saves that, and that's your context from that point forward. And so you can go back and delete that and do whatever you want with it. But I try not to put things, for example, like the specific function signature of the function I'm about to work on in there, because I know that will change every context or every new scratch. And I don't really want to have to remember to delete certain things. So I like my context the way that it is, and I try not to change it too often. Nothing wrong with changing it, just prefer not to. So we do have a bunch of globals. These 2 are 4 apart, so we'll have to see if that's maybe an array of 32-bit values. These are 8 apart, followed by something that is 12 later, 16 later, 2 later. So I don't see any consistent, this isn't an array that is being accessed directly, but we will have to figure out what those all are. So let's look how they look down here and see if we can tell what's going on. This looks like it may be a byte array. No, probably not. So it looks like pairs of 32-bit values. And this is the first entry in the pair and the second entry in the pair. And it looks like XY. So I think there is a... Will pause work? Yeah, we could use pause. I don't know if it specifically is pause, but we could use that as the type. Obviously, these are velocities, but it's X and Y, so that's fine. I'm going to call this a pause array, and actually, we'll call it... This one is a pause array. We'll call this one an F32 array. And we can put that in the context and get a better decompilation. Let's look at this A0. A0 is incremented by S3. S3's only one at a time. So there's no multiply by 2 or anything like that. So this looks like a byte array, since it has a stride of 1. Animate entity, this is going to be also a byte array. Also a byte array. These are both multiply by 2, or sorry, multiply by 4, shift by 2. So they're probably, oh, it's the same one, duh. Probably 32-bit array. But we're accessing a half later. So this looks like XY as a sine 16, so I'm going to call this a 0.16 array. And so next to it then is going to be a sine 16 array. It's part of that same structure. And then finally, unknown collision function. I think that this is just unsigned 32, I'm not sure. We'll take those though and regen our initial decomp. Hopefully get something slightly better. All right, we'll take care of. Now let's get this compiling and then we'll deal with it. So 44, there's an offset that's unknown. Unknown 14, that's interesting. So we need to see what is 14 bytes into the entity structure. And 20 bytes into the entity structure. This looks like rotation pivot X. I think that this is hex. I think. So let's take that in. Oh, do the flail knights jump too? I think they might jump. And then unknown 50. Line 75. Definitely won't be able to finish this, but we'll get there. Offset 50 is pose. So what's happening here is, and the reason that M2C couldn't figure out what it was, possibly the same thing for the rotation pivot X, is this is being loaded as a sine 32, but the value, if we look at what the value is, it is a unsigned 16 followed by another sine 16. So GCC is loading both of these at the same time because it saves a load, and then combining the comparisons to do the same thing. And I always get this incorrect, but I'm going to assume that it's checking for pose equal to 1 and not pose timer. I think that's going to be correct. If not, I'll just have to switch them. And in this case, I think does it make more sense to make the sound effect when the pose timer is finished? I don't know. We'll see. But that's what's going on there. That's I think one of the more fun optimizations that GCC does. CC. All right, so we said that this 2160 is a what? Pause. So here we need to subtract var s2. Var s2 is going to end up being plus equals 1. And here we want dot x val. And here's the same thing. Just minus or plus. And then the same thing down here as well. This is going to be our S2 Y val. And we're doing this at 0. Is there a 0.32? There's a 0.32. That might be a better structure if we're just using val. Let's do that one instead. 0.16, or sorry, pause and the F32. That's really only necessary if you need 16-bit access on either side of it. And we don't in this case. Either the top 16 bits or the bottom 16 bits. All right. var v underscore 2 is just being assigned here, so probably this is in here. One more issue. All right, so we're at 88%. Not the best, not the worst. I'm going to clean up the go-tos next. This should be a self plus 1. All right, so it looks like there is a subtraction here. So we'll need an entity extension for the flail guard. This first one looks like an 8-bit timer. So I think we can create that. Is that the most important thing to do next? Maybe rename some things. Let's look at our variables. We have to go out and see what Flail Guard is doing, and try to get some more idea of what these different parts of the state machine are doing. So we do have a loop here. Let's create an I variable. And we're going to be able to use that I variable for both var S3 and var S2. There's two registers being used, but in this case, they end up being the same thing. They're always incremented by 1. GCC just splits it into 2 registers because originally it was incrementing by the stride of one of them, which is different than the stride of the other. Less than 8. And so any var S3 is going to become I. And any var S2 is going to become I. Screwed up something along the way. Let's fix that. Okay, that looks a little better. We have too few variables. We'll figure out what and why later. Fix our entities range. This will be several different places. I looked at a few things that haven't been solved yet, that are old, outstanding things. If you're interested in pain, they might be good things to look at. Let's see. This is just going to be current frame minus 8 and get rid of the multiplication. The minus 8 here is interesting. Let's compile that again. It's not showing up. So this V0 registers already... Oh, strange. This is getting multiplied by... No, I see what the issue is. This is supposed to be dot y. There we go. That's where the 8 came from. Well, so there's one function left on the stage selection stage. 84, let's look at that. There's no arg here. Let's look at those conditions here where I said it is actually looking at two fields together, and yeah, I did get the order right. I shouldn't say I got the fields right. The order could still be wrong. This is the order that they come in the struct. It looks like I switched something. Physic told me facing left, and he was right. This is a +1, and that's it for the PlayStation. So that actually went pretty quickly. I don't think it's going to be as nice to us on the PSP. I still see some things that need to be cleaned up that will fail. So let's try to get this as nice as possible before flipping over. So in the stage selection screen, oh yeah, I need to do the entity extension too. Entity extensions are always one of those things where I feel like I have pain in my shoulders just thinking about it. This one looks like it's going to go away too. In the stage selection, there's an unused function that we need just for completeness. It's like I said, it's unused. It doesn't exist. It's dead stripped from the PSP. And right now I have the highest match, but I know that there are some things in the match that are definitely wrong. And when I try to fix them, the match gets worse. So I leave it at the high water mark just so that I have the best score. Several other people have worked on it though, and we haven't found a solution to it yet. And what I really should do is just start the permuter going and let it run for like weeks. That's probably what it's going to take, because we don't have another source of truth. That's may not be true. It actually might be worth looking at the Xbox 360 version and see if it's there, possibly even the Saturn version. It's not on the PSP version, I know that. So we have our timer in the entity extension field. Let's try to use that. I'm going to replace all these. Did I say unsigned 8? Because it should be a signed 8. And this is going to be, I'm guessing it's a pre-decrement equal to -1. But maybe not. So let's do a post-decrement. And then check it against -1. So the ordering is important. It is reloading the byte, so we might need a variable for that. Not necessarily happy about that, but what are you going to do? We'll do an assignment in post-decrement. Okay, let's do... oh, is it... Sorry, it's an assignment with pre-decrement. That makes more sense. I said it makes more sense. Let's look again at what did M2C come up with? Yeah, so we're doing the decrement, setting the value back, which should just be inline. Masking off, it could be this variable. It's unsigned, no. The mask part is strange, and so maybe this is an unsigned 8. Let's do that. Let's go back to... I don't like the idea that this is a... variable. It's just not common. All right, so this is better. I don't like it, but it matches. So let's go over and grab the PSP version. So the changes I made to the context will show up here. So that init interactable, that will be there. And I'll have to grab the other stuff from the context. Oh, including the entity extension. Let's grab that while we're here. And I'll get this compiling, but I don't think I'll be able to iterate on it because I am over time. All right, so we're at 91%. We can try to see what might be going on here. Yeah, that should have taken care of that. On the other side, 33. This looks like ordering. We do have another byte here that needs to be taken care of. 44 is a just truthy check. It looks like a Boolean flag. Another unsigned suffix that we don't need. Ordering. $79. Oh, interesting. Is this inverted? No. Just slightly different notation. I mean, it does a different thing. So both end up with the same logic. Hey, Heavy Metal Mixer, good to have you. But we need to respect the one that was being used. We have another init global that I missed the first time. Odd that Flail Guard is being initialized twice. Why is this upset with me? Why is this upset with me? Oh, I have it up there too. There we go. It is declared 3 times. 92. It looks like entity is being assigned. We might have a second entity variable. We'll go with that. No, it chose the right register, so that's fine. Ordering. $106. Yeah, now we're getting back into what the correct order of operations for that that timer were. It does look like there may be another variable. There may be a timer variable. Let's try that and see what it does and does not like. It looks like let's create a variable and see. So I would assume that it's assigned 32. I'm not sure yet. That's not really going to work out very well. So the additional masks don't make sense. Let's make it a assigned 8. And now we're getting a bunch of sign extensions that also are not right. Make it an unsigned date. We should get a warning or an error. Better write this the way that the decompiler wrote it. I must have stuttered. So we're loading a byte, doing the subtraction. This is happening, it looks like, without any intermediate instruction. And it is loading the byte as unsigned. Did I have it as unsigned? It is unsigned here. Okay. What is a little strange is the and then we're storing the byte right away. So the byte is going directly back into. So yeah, this should be a pre-decrement without another variable. But we're getting some additional masks here, and I'm not sure where those are coming from. That is not expected. Oh, maybe let's try that. Nope. Actually, I would expect this to just be a not. Oh, maybe that's the issue. It is just a not. We're still getting one more. Let's try loading it as assigned. Yeah, then we get a sign extension. Let's do a post decrement. And that's what it was. So what GCC is doing is it's seeing that this is a post decrement, but it's actually doing a pre decrement. And then instead of checking against 0, it's checking against -1. Why is it doing that? Probably so that it can do the loads and the math while the registers are not settled yet for this velocity y calculation too. So it needs to load velocity y from memory, and it needs to load this timer from memory. Those take additional instructions, and those registers aren't ready to be used right away. So if it can do both those loads at the same time, then it can come back and do some other things. Then it has to do stores as well. And so for whatever reason, GCC is programmed to consider that as being faster. Okay, that's neat. That facing left won't be an explicit check. So 114, let's get rid of these casts. And that might have been it. All right, so we didn't need another variable, and I'm expecting this to work on the PlayStation as well. There probably are a bunch of symbols that are wrong that would have to be mapped to get this to work correctly on the PSP, so I'm not going to do that now. I just want to make sure that the difference is still 60 here. And we'll say it's success if that's the case. Ooh, no, it's not. Much worse. All right, so something else is going on. We'll have to come back and see what that is. It's really odd to have this as a post decrement. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So it could be a bug fix difference between the two, but we'll have to save that for another day. So we've been decompiling Castlevania Symphony Night and dropping a lot of frames. Not loading this page very well. Go to soten.z.dev and hopefully I'll have more frames for you tomorrow. Adios.